Red Lanterns number 13, written by Peter Milligan, art by Miguel Sepulveda. This is the first part to the Red Lanterns branch of Rise of the Third Army, and the entire first half of this book is just recounting, hey, just in case you're coming into this event not knowing who the Red Lanterns are, here's kind of their gist. So we open up on this planet called Artkey, and it is a war-torn planet. There's a couple of, barbarian roaming tribes or whatever, and we see that one of them has captured a pair of sisters, murdered their parents, and they're late teens. So the leader of the barbarians, named Cord, is like, I will take this younger, beautiful one to be our dancer. The other one can be used for domestics and whatnot. So they brand the sisters with the guy's symbol and then force them to do all their work and dance for them and whatever else. And they barely feed them any sort of scraps, and they're treated like animals and whatever. And this goes on for quite a period of time until one night Cord picks the younger sister named Taya, and he's like, you'll be dancing for me personally tonight. And the sister's like, no, please, free her. She's just still a girl. And Cord's like, well, I have no use for you. And he just slits the older sister's throat. And Taya, of course, is not super cool with this, and she yells out in anguish and pain and rage. And across the galaxy, the Red Lanterns feel that rage, feel that pain, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go do that. So back on the planet, the night is calm, and she does her dance, and apparently she has some sort of power. It's very vague. I think her power might just be entrancing them in a dance or something like that. So she gets them all to drink to the point where they're overly drunk and they can't stay awake. So then she uses that night in order to escape, and she runs through some woods and stuff like that until she comes across an itty bitty tiny little camp that consists of just a husband-wife. And the husband is like, you said Cord? You said that you ran away from Cord? No, we're not getting involved. And the wife's like, oh, shut up. Yeah, no, we'll take you in. Come here. So at that point, Taya and the wife bond a little bit. And she's just like, between you and me, I would have left my husband, too. He's kind of a dick. And they laugh about it. And then Cord shows up. And he's like, hey, would you happen to have one of my runaways? And the husband's like, oh, yeah, my bitch wife and her are inside. He literally says that. And he's just like, oh, all right, well, guess I'll take them then. And so he's literally willing to take the wife as well. And the husband's like, what can I get for her? Give me $5 and we'll call it even. So at this point, she's like, no, we'll kill the wife. We're not going to do anything with the wife. So Taya's freaking out. No, if you kill her, you'll have to kill me too. And he's like, okay, I really don't have a problem with that. So he kills the wife and also kills Taya. And as Taya is bleeding out on the ground in a pool of her own blood, who shows up at that point but Atrocitus? And he's just like, hey, we were here by great rage. Who's the one who caused it? And looks over at Taya bleeding out on the ground. It's like, hey, you've got great rage in your heart. If our power battery was at 100%, we'd probably get you a ring. But unfortunately, you're just going to have to settle for this. And she's just like, oh, there's no justice. There's no... The universe is a cruel and ungrateful place. And then he's like, all right, well, let me show you a little bit of justice. So he looks at Cord and is just like, oh, we have found you to be guilty. And he's just like, I can get you gold. I can get you women. And Atrocitus just rips off his head. And Taya's like, there's also the husband of this wife. He's also a dick. Also get him. And we meet a Red Lantern named Scorch, who steps up, and apparently her whole thing is she can literally just incinerate an entire body just with her hand. And Rancor, the human Red Lantern's also there, and he's like, yeah, I try to stay out of the way of Scorch. She's a bit hardcore. So at that point, we finally get into the event tie-in, and the Third Army, one of them, just shows up out of nowhere, tries to attack Rancor, and Atrocitus takes the body of one of the barbarians and just uses it as a baseball bat and just sends the Third Army guy way across the woods. But he's not out, and there's more of them coming. So at this point, fight breaks out. Atrocitus realizes, the Red Lantern, energy doesn't work on them. They just move right through it. They don't even feel anything. So we see everyone's tied up in a fight, and it seems like all of them are trying to rip off their arms, and Scorch is the first one to lose the fight, loses her arm. Atrocitus freaks out over it, as we then see that she is brought into the Third Army. She's absorbed and, I'm missing the word, assimilated, that's it. And it turns out that her Red Lantern heart, when that happens, just kind of extrudes itself. It just pops out of the body. And it's just like, you purged her heart. What in the hell are you? So at that point, Atrocitus puts it together like, okay, you're taking off our arms so we don't have our power rings, and then you're killing us. Okay, yeah, I get it. So then Atrocitus starts really laying into them, and he realizes that the eyes of each of these things is not the eye, like they belong to the original. So he's like, those aren't your eyes, those are different eyes. What happens if I pull them out? And so he pulls out the eyes of, I believe, the one belonging to Scorch. And at that point, it seemingly kills one of them, but also affects all the rest of them in that they are all feel that because they're all part of a hive mind. So he's like, all right, well, we know that they can be hurt. We know that they can bleed. Therefore, we can kill them. So the fight is about to get on with that. And then we cut over one last shot to Taya, who's like, my captors were killed. Maybe there is some justice in the universe, as a Third Army guy shows up and assimilates her as well. So, not that much justice. This was good. I really do. I think that out of all of the Third Army branches, this is the one that I think feels the most in line with what I was expecting. It is just straight horror of just, here is essentially a zombie horde. How do you deal? And I think that the Red Lanterns did a good job of A, they laid down an immediate weakness. B, they set up how terrifying these guys can be by saying how one of their strongest members was then attacked and killed. It just did a fantastic job of not only showing how they can survive, but also why it is so difficult to kill them in the first place. So, no, I think that out of all the Third Army stuff, this is probably one of the stronger ones. Art-wise as well, I think that this does the best of making them menacing. Everywhere else, I think they had like a style sheet, and it was just kind of like thick lines and very not scratchy in any given way. It was very clean. This one, Miguel Sepulveda, really lays into like the scratchiness of it, and you feel like these things are otherworldly sort of creatures. So definitely enjoy that. Overall, I guess I'd say this one's an 8. My only real critique is that, like I said, the first half of that was just like, hey, in case you're coming into this event without having read Red Lanterns, here's what the Red Lanterns do. Like, that didn't feel necessary for me having been in it, but of course, for other readers, it very well may have been. So, not a huge complaint, but still there. So, 8 for this. Looking forward to seeing the Red Lantern branch continue on further.